Okay, let's go continue. So I'm going to do two main things. We have to learn how to do routing with React Router, and then we will do the messages page. So this is what we're going to do to do the routing, popular solution written by somebody else, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Okay, so what we got to do is install that first with npm. So going back to my VS Code, open the terminal. If you want to kill the server, I can do that and restart later. npm install react-router-dom. Paste the command to zoom just in case. Okay, we got that in package.json now under dependencies, right? I didn't talk about node modules, but basically the third-party code is installed in this node_modules folder, and you can also check there's a React router down there somewhere. Here, this one. So the source code is available for you to produce. Okay, so it's a lot of stuff there because our dependencies depend on other dependencies. You know, this node modules directory is infamous for that issue, but that's the way it is. Okay, so we gotta go to app.js, and then we gotta set up some routing here. So what we're gonna do is take this app, and we're gonna place, actually not here, sorry, index, which is where it's actually using that app component. And what we're gonna do is take this, just comment this out so I don't remember. Oops, not like that, // And inside strict mode, we gotta instantiate what's called the router provider component like that. And that's from import router provider from React router DOM. Basically, this is the component that will be in charge of managing the routing, and you got to pass an attribute, what we call props, right? And that's called the router itself. And we got to build that router. Let's call it router and create a variable outside. Let's const router. And this will come from a function from called create browser router. That's one of them. And we got to import here create browser router from React router DOM. Make sure it's within the curly braces. If you have multiple imports from the same module, separate a comma and a curly brace here. And then this function expects something, which is the routes definition. I'm going to put in a separate file. Since we don't have time to explain right away, I could write it here and then move to the file, but I'll do it right away, okay? So sorry about going fast. So basically, I'll create a variable called routes. And that's basically, I would just import routes from the file /routes.js. By the way, when doing parts, it's implicitly .js, so you don't have to say it like that. And I usually put it at the top here. Let's create the file here, routes.js. And this file here, because I did the import without curly braces, that means I have to export or make the content available with export default, okay? Default is the one without curly braces. And then we're gonna export default array, okay? So we're gonna create a variable here, routes, an array, and export default that. Of course, I could have done it directly here, but I want to have that intermediate. I think it's better for IntelliSense. IntelliSense is when you type something, it auto-suggests something and knows what's inside. So I think having it this way works better. Anyway, so here is an array of what we call route definitions, which is basically every page we have in our app. So because it's a single page application, we have to define like what is virtually a page, right? We have this route, and if we go to /messages, it should go to this component. If I go to /signup, it should go to that component and render that kind of stuff. So we have to define here. So basically, you can pass an object, an array of objects for all the routes. But the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to have a master route. That's going to be the app. And then within that app, I can nest many things because I want to have every single page, I want to have a header and footer. That's the same thing. But then I want to have the content, the main content always change depending on the path. So that's why I'm going to do a nested thing. So the path here for this is slash, which is the root, and the element or the component is going to be that app from index. So I'm going to take that from here and put it there, no slash slash. Now, because I need the import, right? Because it doesn't know what that is. Let me put this down so you can see and close that. Basically, I want to take this cut from index, move to routes so it recognizes it. And then, yeah, so that way I can show the app as one of the main route. So what is going to happen now is it's going to load this app as the main thing. So it should look like almost the same, but let me see. We got that, we got that. Now we need what's called the outlet. So I'm going to go to app. Let's see, app.js. We got the children. We got to do to the main content. We got to index here. Let me see. This part. So for that part, I'm going to use what's called an outlet. I'm not going to do index, do outlet. And this outlet will come from React Router DOM. So outlet from React. What is outlet? Well, it's basically a placeholder for you want something to go in there depending on the path. We're going to see it more later. Okay, let me see if everything's okay by testing. Going to Chrome. Where's my Chrome? Share. Let's refresh. No, not here. Sorry. I forgot to restart my server, by the way, because I had installed npm start. There you go. Make sure my Chrome is. There you go. Fresh. All right. Now, as you can see, it's pretty much nothing is there, right? Because it's empty. Now, what we got to do is define all the nested routes, and then you add the reusable header. So let me show you. Basically, what's going to do is we're going to use app as like the layout. And then whatever we have outlet, that's basically the main content. So I'm going to take from index, I'm going to go here and take the header, which is basically the navigation. I'm going to cut that, okay? Because I want every page to have the same header. So I cut that from index, scroll down here, and put it before outlet, save it. You should see going back to Chrome that I now see the header here, okay? See the header? And then the outlet's going to be the thing in the middle. And then finally, I'm going to have the footer. And I'm going to go, I don't think there's a footer. Let's make one. But after the outlet, and add a footer. Copyright, post stack, web dev, copy. This is, by the way, a HTML entity, which basically, if you want to show the circle with the C, you could use these codes. Basically, it's always ampersand, whatever the name, and semicolon. So if you want to show like less than, like this one in code, or greater than literally that, you would say like LT or GT. Because otherwise, if you write it like this, it might think it's HTML notation, right? That's why you got to do that. Anyway, we got the footer. Maybe you can add a site footer class there and define. By the way, this has a CSS, right? App.css. So we can go here and add a class site footer. Add some padding, 16 pixels, background color. About, I'll do antique white. Something like that. Okay. You can see the footers there. Okay, now let's load the outlet, because the outlet we want to show the actual index, right? Before I do that, I didn't tell you, but usually when we have multiple components, usually what people do is we separate them each into their own file. So instead of having all together like this, we kind of right click here. Let's kind of organize this, kind of a mess. So I'm going to make a directory for pages, and I'm going to I'm going to basically cut this code for index, and right click pages, create index.js, and paste it there. And because this component needs to be accessed from another file, I have to do export default before function. That way, when I do export default here and go back to where it's used, which is going to be, by the way, index, not app, I would do here, sorry, routes. I would do import index from /pages/index. By the way, you might see the extension .jsx instead of .js because it's using JSX, which is basically what looks like HTML. If you're using TypeScript, you're going to see .tsx, okay? Anyway, that's why we usually don't type explicitly extensions here. Okay, so what we got to do here in this file is add what's called the children of this app element. And we got to define pretty much other routes that are nested. Okay, let's see. Basically, going to copy the same pattern. Object, element, index, like this. By the way, if you want this particular one to be a path, you would do like, if it's hello world, you want to go to this element. But since this one is supposed to be the root, right? The root, the first one we show, instead of saying that, we say index true here. So that way, this is the first thing. If you go to root, it will pick this one. If you try to go somewhere else, it'll pick others. Okay, let's save this, then go back to app, clean this up. We got the outlet here, which will be substituted with the index here, which is children of this app. And we got the index. The index, we got to do the imports because it's complaining, not define, remember? So basically, we got to do this same thing. And because I'm doing index there, I probably want to copy this and do the import here, even though it's going to work if I have an app, but I don't want every single page to have the CSS for index. So I'm going to remove from app and just have it only for pages. And I think that's all. If I scroll down and see any more errors, let's test it out. Maybe we're going to find an error in Chrome. Oh, we have an error, right? Let's read. Cannot find module./index.css. Okay, that's because I moved the file, the content definition for index is now under pages, and there's no index.css there. So one thing I could do is either change the path or move the file. I think it's best we move the file, right? It's more organized. So I move index.css to pages, so they are side by side there. Let's see if anything else is failing. Save everything. Still complaining. Why? Is it cached? Let's go back here. I'm gonna do a global search for index.css. See where it's used. It's used here. Oh, I see. This is from React, Create React App. They already had index, right? And they're using it here. I don't want that. I'm gonna remove it. Okay, I removed it from that. And probably I want to remove all these other stuff here and move to the global or to the app.css because it's supposed to be the one applied to every single page. So if you want these, You can take them and out and put either app or global. I think app is supposed to be the global one. Maybe we can consolidate later. So basically you can put it here. I think it's going to override maybe some stuff. This one, ours is going to override if we put before. Anyway, it's just stuff from the default we don't really care about, but I'll just leave it there for your reference. And that's it. Going back and testing it out, I can see no more console errors. It's working like that. We have the header. This is, remember, this is app, right? The outer thing is app. You can verify by going, see, you got a div ID root. This div here is the app component. And we got the header and we got the footer. And remember that outlet thing from React Router DOM? That's actually what gets substituted here as the main content. Because we specified that nested route under the children for app, right? In the routes.js, I put index true for that index component. So that's the slash here, the root. So that way we can now start navigating or transitioning to different pages. But to do that, we cannot just use the A tag because the A tag will always cause a page load and it will download something completely new. We have to use instead a React Router's link component because the link component does the client-side transition, which basically is just rebuilding, is just changing the path. And this, because of that, it rebuilds the stuff according to the nested routes that we define. It doesn't actually request a whole new page new from the server. So you got to be careful. Don't use anchor tag. Let's go back and fix the links. So basically you would, let's go back to index, right? Pages index. These links, which are supposed to be navigation. Actually, I want them to be, I could put them in every single page. But anyway, import curly brace link from React Router DOM like this. And then every time you need to link something that's internal, for external, of course, you got to use anchor tag. Okay, by the way, clarify. External links to another website is anchor tag. Link. And then they use two for some reason. They don't use href. It's kind of annoying. You could build like a abstract component to always use ref and use the underlying React Router DOM. That's what I would do. But to avoid having to change the two. It's basically like this. And for the sign up here, usually want to do slash sign up and not have HTML extension because we're going to define this path like that. So let's see. I see sign up here. You see it's on at the bottom, it's saying slash sign up. So I click and it goes to slash sign up. See, it changes the route. Obviously, we don't have the page yet defined, but it's working. It's a client-side transition. If you monitor the network, you see there's not going to be any new page load. If you look at document, doc, and you keep going back and forth, there's no network request for a new page. Anyway, let's add that page, by the way. It's good exercise. So basically, let's create a file here under pages. Call it signup.js. And I want to just copy this signup.html here. Let's put it at the top from the source directory, if you remember. The source under the root, by the way, not the source under web client. Here. So this is what it looks like. Basically, to create a component, remember, function, give it a name, start first letter, capital I, sign up, parentheses, no props, no properties, no parameters there. Return the template as JSX. And because we want to make this available to another file to import, we got to do export default. Can I do export default later? Yes, you can do this as well, by the way. You can do it like this. Either way. I always report React from React at the top in case they all complain. I think it's already behind the scenes adding it, so it's not complaining, but usually it's always necessary. Okay, now what's the template? Well, look at the page, signup.html. under the body, we're gonna take all of that, copy, oops, except don't copy body itself. And then you paste it here. And we gotta look into the stuff that's not valid. Oh, right now it's complaining, right? Why? GSX expressions will have one parent element. It's because you're returning more than one thing here. One thing, two, three. So in JavaScript can only return one thing. So how can we group them together? There are different ways. You can put them in an array, or you can put them in a div like this, enclose everybody in a div. By the way, I fold these because I don't care what's inside right now. Or you can use a fragment if you don't want to inject an extra div. You can do react.fragment, and that one will not inject any extra div. Some people like using the shortcut, which is basically empty. It's the same thing, okay? All right, so let's walk through what we need to change now. Right, we got some problems. First is class, right? Class equals, we need to change that to class name because it's React. So I'm gonna control D every single thing, class name. Okay, the way I do is I highlight what a class equals, control D, or I think it's command D or Mac, all the way through to multi-select all of them. And that fixes it. Now it's complaining about inputs because it's not closed. So basically you got to go here and add the slash to every single input. Slash before the greater than. This one and that one and that one. So I made basically multi-select, put a slash. Kind of tedious. This one and that one. Oh, by the way, if you want to comment, this is supposed to be a comment in HTML, right? Which is supposed to ignore the code. If you want to comment JSX, you got to use the curly brace slash star to start and then star slash curly brace to end. If you press control slash in VS Code, it does that. Control slash, control slash. I don't know if a Mac is command slash. If you're using Mac, let me know. I forget. Anyway, that's the comment. Okay, we got that page. I don't think there's any more issues. If so, we're gonna fix them later. So we got the template all done. What we gotta do is include in the routes file. So source under web client routes. Under the children of app, you're gonna add a new object, comma, object, curly brace. Element's gonna be what? It's gonna be either sign up, instantiated like this, and the path is gonna be slash sign up. That way, if a user go to slash sign up, a React router will take this component and show it in the outlet. Make sure to import here. Sign up from dot slash pages slash sign up. And I think that should do it. Let's try. There you go. Go back home. Oh, this home is messed up. Don't do it. I'm gonna change from the route directly. Go to sign up. It's here. So go back, go forward, go back, go forward. So that's the client-side transitions. It's basically manipulating the document to look like another page, but it's not really another page. Okay, it's not loading a whole new document. Okay, that's React Router. Let's add the messages. And if you recall, there's messages there. Got to do the same approach again. You know, the more you do the same thing, same pattern, you get used to it. So you can start from anywhere you want. You can create a page first and then do the routes, or you can do route first, create a page. Let's do route first now. So what we would do here is add a null object under the children of these definition. Element's going to be messages that I'm going to call. Path is going to be slash messages. Then we got to import messages from /pages that we are going to create soon, like that. It's going to complain, by the way, if we do it right now. Save it. Anyway, go to pages, create new file, messages.js. Export default because we want to make this file component available. Function messages, first letter capitalized. No parameters yet. Curly brace, return a template. At the top, usually add import React from React because we're using JSX. And yeah, it's open here at the top, messages.html from the root/source. Go under body, copy everything except the script. It's like that. Because it's multiple things, remember we gotta use either add a div or add a fragment. Fragment is just an empty tag like this. And don't forget to close on the line like that. My indentation's kind of off here. There you go. Save it. And let's see. We got to fix the link, right, to go there instead of typing manually. Go to app. Oh, not app, sorry. Index. Here's the link, line 39 index. Instead of A, it's link. Instead of href, it's 0. And here say /messages, remove.html. Don't forget the closing tag should be /link. Okay. Let me fix the home links, by the way. I think there's some home links should mean that from messages. I'm going to change that to link to. You don't need index, just say /. Yeah, link. Because it doesn't know what it is, you got to import curly brace link from React Router DOM. That fixes that one. For sign up, you can do the same here. Basically the same thing. Link. Basically, this should be in the header, right? It's kind of annoying having it here. I think it should be in the header for every page. So you'd probably move that to the app.js. So you don't have to write it multiple times for every single page. You only write it once in app.js, React Router DOM. No dash there, right? Okay. Go back to Chrome. Go back home. Oh, this home is messed up. Sign up. This is not correct. Why? Because I put href. That's why it's messed up. This one has to be 2. 2. Okay, now it says home / yeah. Okay. Messages, home, sign up. Okay, you got it here. Some problems with console. Let's fix it. First one is for. In React, we got to use HTML4. And we got class name. And we got the onSubmit because we got a capital S. Okay, let's fix all of that. Go back to messages. First class, right? Class equals, got to be class name. This label, when you have a for attribute for labels, you got to use HTML4. Why? Because for is a reserved keyword in JavaScript to do looping, a for loop, repetition. Okay, and then finally, submit for the form. It doesn't work this way in React. Remember, we got to pass a function definition. So we would do curly brace, not the quotes, and remove this call there. Then you got to define add message here before the return. Let me copy the messages. Remember, there's a script for message.js. You can go here and copy this, but it's not the proper way to do it in React. There you go, like that. So that way when oh, by the way, you need the S right here. Capital S on, capital S, submit. React doesn't like lowercase. And when it's submit the form, call the function here. Let's see. Refresh. No errors in the console. Great. It's adding it, but there's no styling. It should be a square box. And that's because we got message HTML. We got some styling here, line 6. So how do we do styling? Remember, React, we would import the path to the CSS file. Let's copy messages.css and place it under web client pages under source. And it's here. Going back here or do import quotes./messages.css. So that way it's, by the way, I didn't explain how it does the mechanism of CSS, right? Let me show you. Basically what it does is it reads the file, CSS file, and then it generates a style tags and inject that in the head. We can easily see that if we go to the Elements tab or Inspector in Firefox, and you can check the head, and you will see right before the end all these style tags. That's actually, you see this one is for the messages.css. That's what's happening. So the JavaScript reads the CSS content and then injects that as style tags before the end of head. So you can see all of them there. Yeah, it's a CSS in JavaScript. Yeah, whereas before we were doing link tags, this one just dynamically creates these. Anyway, that's the mechanism. Now you can see it's their style there. It's working the vanilla JavaScript way, but we got to convert to React. How to convert to React? Let's go. Okay. So React, we don't want to be manipulating the document directly because React is doing that for us. Instead, we declare what we want to see. We tell React what we want to keep track of in value, what kind of value in the state. Okay, so let's first have some default messages. How would I show it? Well, you can, maybe let's create an array here. Call it messages or comments. Let's each be an object. Let's say ID is 1 and comment hello, and add another one, 2, comment test. Basically, we represent each message as an object with ID to give it a unique identifier, and then a comment's basically what you're going to see. And it's a list of things, an array. And this is just dummy data for now, okay? Because I want to tell you how we would show this in React. So basically what we can do is we would go here in the template where we have the message list, and we would go over this messages, iterate for each of these elements. I want to generate that, remember that div with the class message list item and the text content, the comment. But this is the programmatical way. In React, we do declaratively. So let's go. Here, you're going to go, okay, I got messages. If I want to iterate over an array and generate new elements with the same number of elements, I can use map. Okay, that's a JavaScript function. .map. And you pass a function, and it's going to go over each element. For each element, you call this function with the argument here being the element itself. I'll call it message. And we can return a div with the class name message list item. This is the declarative way of what we did there programmatically. And then the text content is going to be message.comment. Remember, message is an object. It has like this, a property comment. So if you want to access an object's comment value, you say dot comment, right? Because comment belongs to this message object. And then finish the div. So that's the equivalent of this whole thing here and appending the child. You see how it's much easier to see than having to type all of this just to do that. You can just declare it and React will automatically change the document. There you go, like that. Let me refresh, by the way. See hello and test there? we took a value from a variable, an array of objects, and from those, for each of them, we generated a new, completely new div using the class name and the value from the variable. Very powerful. Okay. Now, how would we integrate this comment into that? Well, we gotta use state. So React knows what's going on. If we don't use state, it won't know when we change messages, just like we did for that other page. Remember, we tried to change paragraph style and it wouldn't change because React didn't know about it. So React didn't re-render or update the document. So you got to do the same thing. So here we're going to do what? React.use state. Here's my initial value, this array of two things. That's the initial thing. And we're going to take that, extract the first element into messages, the second into the function to change messages that we call set messages. Notice by convention, we always call it set, whatever this name for the first variable is. Well, of course, you can change it to whatever you want, but I think it's going to be confusing to understand. So you always want to be descriptive of your variable names. Okay, now whenever you need to add a new message, you call set messages, and you can pass the whole new list. So what you would do here when you click add message, instead of, okay, we would call set messages, but first we gotta be careful. When you call set messages, it will wipe out everything that's already there. So what you want to do is you want to first copy what already exists. So if you want to copy the elements of the messages array, you would do dot 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 messages. So that way it would take the initial ones that already exist. Now you can choose, do you want to put the new message in the top or the bottom? If you want bottom, you would put it here. If you want top, you want it here. So I'm going to put it at the top, okay? Now, what is this new message? Well, for now, let's just add test 1, 2, 3, dummy. And let's comment out all this stuff here. We don't want that anymore. I'm going to comment this out too. And obviously, I'm not taking what the user typed just yet, because I want to show you that this is the mechanism that we're going to use. So whenever I click comment, it's going to add dummy. Okay, like that, like that, like that. Right now it's nothing, right? Why? Why do you think that's causing? Let's debug. Okay, let's debug. Sources or debugger in Firefox. Go to app, right? Control P, app. Not app, sorry, messages this time. .js. It's either this or that. We gotta check, okay? Maybe it's, I think it's might be the second. Let me see. And then we're gonna go to the function here. Oh, not that one. Sorry, that one is the wrong one. It's this one. Yeah, there we go. Now let's go here and put a breakpoint. Let's click comment. It's pause here. Okay, pause. Control backtick. Let's investigate. Okay, what's in messages right now? Look, dummy, dummy, dummy. What is this? 0 is the first position on the array. Second index, 1. There's a string of a string, right? But look at the other ones. The other ones are objects. So what mistake did I make? I didn't make them objects with the comment property because that's what it's expecting to create there, divs. So with that, understood that, go back, fix it. Here we got to change this. So you got to be what? Comment, object or comment property and value like that. So that's a way of debugging things, okay? Investigate what's the data type it's expecting down there in the map, right? It's message.comment. Right now I had message like dummy. So this would be like dummy here. And it would take dummy and try to access comment out of dummy, which doesn't exist. So it gives us an error. Okay, so it gotta be an object. Going back here, remove the debugger. If you want to play around, you could. Close it, refresh, comment, dummy, dummy, dummy in a box. Now, how do we get what the user typed? That's the next question. Well, we got to control this component. When we control a component, do two things. Add the value attribute and use a state to track that. and then you add an onChange to change that when you type any character. Let's do it. Go back here. Whenever you have text area, we're gonna add a value. Let's call it new comment. How about that? And you need an onChange. Now this onChange will be a function. Okay, let's call it on comment change. And then we got to define these two things. Let's go here and define the state. React use state. Initially, it's empty, right, in the text area. So empty two quotes like that. Either double or single, doesn't matter, but empty string. And you can call that new comment, comma set new comment. Like that. The second thing is the function, right? Function on comment change. Now we're gonna need to access what was typed. So we need to the event argument, because every time there's an event, you get that object to access details about that event. In this case is when you change is whenever you type a character. So when I type a character, I want to update the value of new comment, which is where the value that should be appearing for the text area. So I have to say set new comment with that new value. But how do I access that? Well, I got to say event dot target to first grab the text area itself, and then dot value to access what the user typed. Okay, that way every time I type a character, it will set the new comment to whatever the user typed. And with that, we have access to new comment, what the user typed. And you can go here, instead of saying dummy, you can just say new comment. I usually like to move all my state stuff out to the top, by the way. So I like to put it here. Like that. So you can see this is coming from there. Let's try. Brush. You see, every time I type a whatever, it's changing. If I didn't set this up correctly, it would probably be something that you couldn't change. But comment is there. See? Yay. Want to investigate that more? DevTools is your friend. Let's go here to messages. And you can click. Let's investigate on comment change if you didn't understand. When I type a character, it's going to call this. Put a breakpoint here. Let's type a character, V. You see it's triggering this function? Let's look at event. Event has all these things that informs you what just happened. And it tells you what's the type of event, change. Okay, who's the target? The target is who triggered change, this text area. So if I access target, event.target, what do I got? I got all these things, and I have one called value. If I click, is what was typed. That's how you figure out which property to use. Okay, so it's pretty much going to set the new comment with that. Right now, what's new comment? Let's look. I don't know. It's probably going to say undefined again. Let's see. It's not. Okay, there you go. It's whatever without a V, right? That's the previous state. And then it's going to be overwritten. And now there's a V there. And this value will have V if you had a breakpoint in the render. But anyway, you get the point. And that's how we do it. Now you notice we didn't clear this when you click comment. How do we fix that? What's the function that allows us to change the value of the text area? Remember text area here, the value is new comment, and that's from the state, and there's a function that we can call. So here we would say set new comment to empty string. That way when I comment, it will clear. By the way, I don't need this anymore. Save it. Try it again. Comment cleared. Type again, comment, clear the text area. Okay, great. If you have any questions, let me know. Kind of almost out of time. I don't think we can do much explanation about the fetching data from an external server, but I can try to go fast, but you'll probably be left not understanding what's going on. But let's see. Let me see. So there's this place here that I can get some dummy data. It's basically a fake backend. Let me 3D print for you. That's the place. And we can use this dummy data. I think it's on 100. If you want to limit, you can add, I think, question mark underscore limit. Let's say 3. So you only get 3. Basically, it's a server, right? Somewhere else, a backend that returns posts that we can think of them being stored in a database, so they persist. And this, obviously, we're going to write this later, but we can leverage this because if you notice, every time we refresh, we lose the data, right? Because it's not persisted. We need to actually call the backend and store the information. So how would I retrieve information from this server? Let's work on that. So basically, if you need to set anything initially in React, we're going to learn a new hook called useEffect. So basically, okay, the React component renders, it's on the screen. What we got to do is make a request to this server. Hey, I want the post information. You got to wait a little bit. So it's going to return to you a promise. Hey, I promise to give you back the post, but you got to wait a little bit until I get them. So we got to wait. And then when you get them, okay, here are the posts information. What we do? Well, we're going to take that and set new messages with those posts. But how do we do that in React? Well, we do it using useEffect, meaning after the first render, we do all that operation only once. Okay, so we're going to go here. Let me first show you how you can do with the dummy data initially. So I'm going to take this dummy data and just put an empty string initially to simulate. We don't have anything right now, right? So you're not going to see anything. So we're going to React.useEffect. And the second argument has to be empty string. Otherwise, this function gets called after every render. That is, when you change state, render, call useEffect. Change state, render, call useEffect. So that's not good. We only do that once. So we add this, what's called array of dependencies, empty array here. So we only execute this once after the first render. So I want to set messages to these values. You're not going to notice it right away because it's so fast. So I'm going to use a timeout to delay that, okay? So let me put a delay there. 2 seconds. Let's see. Where's my Chrome? Refresh. Nothing, nothing. There you go. After 2 seconds, it's set the new message, okay? That's simulated. Now, can we do that with the actual backend? Yes. How do we do that? Well, let's remove the timeout. Remove this, set messages, leave it hanging here. Remove side timeout. So, okay, component renders, call the useEffect function. By the way, I use the arrow function, if you notice. It's basically going to use function too. Doesn't matter. So we're going to call fetch. Fetch is a function we can use to retrieve information from another server. That is, we make an HTTP request. By default, it's get, method get. So we're going to do a get request to that place / posts. And then this thing returned what's called a promise. So remember, you got to wait. Hey, I've got to give the information. Please wait a little bit. So in order to handle that and only do something after waiting, you got to do what's called .then. And you pass a function that will be called when this is ready, when this promise is fulfilled. Okay? Otherwise, it doesn't work. You got to wait for this, and it's going to call this function. Now, this function gives you back, you can access the response. Okay? When you make a request, you get a response object, and you get information about, okay, This is the response. This is whatever, whatever. And then you got the body of the response that has the data. To extract the information from the body, you're gonna do return response.json call like this. So it's gonna extract the body, parse that in the JSON format, which basically gonna turn into an array of objects, right? In JavaScript. Now this also returns a promise. So you gotta wait. Hey, wait for me to do this operation. So you gotta do another then. It's called a chain of thens, but it's outside. So you gotta do dot then because this whole thing here will return a promise. And in order to wait and then do something after receiving the stuff, you gotta pass another function here to the then. And this will be the actual posts, okay? And once you got that, you can just call set messages with those posts. Obviously, I think they use a different, let me see if they use a different, yeah, they use a different property, not comment. If you see here, they use title or body. We can just use title for now if we wanna. So we're gonna have to change a little bit of things here. So for every post, I wanna change and map to a new one. Well, you can use change. I can leave it like this or change my thing here to instead of message.com it's title. That works too. But let me do that first. Okay, I changed this to top title. And then I'll show you the mapping to change the property name. Anyway, see refresh, all that stuff. It's 100 posts. It's happening so fast, right? Initially empty array, make the request, get a response, extract the body JSON, and then set messages. And then it re-renders the components because the state was changed. React reacts to the change. And it's all there. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Let's fix, I want to revert this back to comment, by the way. And let me show you the way you can change the properties. So basically here I would do dot map and pass our arrow function, by the way. And an implicit return, I can do like this. Just copy the properties from the object post and you add comment is basically post.title. This way you just copy whatever exists and add a comment, which is basically duplicate of title. You could, of course, create a new object and remove all the other properties. That's fine too. So this is the implicit way of arrow function. I honestly don't like this because I like debugging and breakpoints and I find it harder to understand what's going on when I'm doing stuff. So I like to always explicitly put a curly brace return like this. By the way, the parentheses is not necessary. It's just sometimes if you do like weird things, it might mess you up. But let's debug that. By the way, I wanted to change the limit here, add a limit, because too many messages. Question mark limit underscore limit equals 3. That way it's easier for us to understand. There you go, just 3. Let's debug so you can see what's going on now. Where is it? I want to put the debugger here, okay? After the fetch, then, the first then. And then put up the debugger in maybe after this. Maybe I'll put in the render here before the return so you can see what messages is. Okay, so refresh. It's paused in the first render and you can see messages is empty array, right? Continue. Second render, what's in messages? Still empty. Let me go up, okay? And then you can keep going. Okay, message is still empty, but it rendered the things, the body, right? And then go, next one, still message. You can keep going. Now it's 3 elements in the array. And you can see them. What do they look like? I have title, I have body, and I added comment, right? That's what I did here. It's kind of redundant, right? I did the same thing as titles. So you could have replaced it, create a new object, but whatever. It's later on we're gonna create our own backend, so this won't matter at all. Anyway, that's it. And yeah, we don't have a way to do the backend with the post, but it's basically the same approach. We're gonna call fetch and just do method post. Let me show you here. Basically, when you add a new message, when you type something, add comment, we have to call the server first to see if they let us add a new message. Okay, so basically here, you would say fetch, oops, and that same place that we use also has a method called post. Here you have to have a second argument, method post, and you need the body. In this case, what do you want to send to them to create a new post? Okay, you got a JSON stringify, actually this thing, but they're gonna use title, right? Post as title, whatever. I don't even know if this would work in that fake backend. Let's try. I'm put the message like that and new message. What am I doing here? Basically, I take this object and I turn it into a string by calling JSON stringify. Basically takes this and converts to string, okay? Usually pass headers to this HTTP request saying, hey, we're sending JSON. So the header is called content type, JSON like this. And this returns a promise. So we got to do that then, and then we'll give back a response. Obviously, you got to check if no problems. Response.okay is the property you want to check, but I'm going to assume happy path. So you can exercise for you to check if it's a good response. Otherwise, response JSON to extract the body, and then do a .then outside. And finally, usually when you create a resource, it gives you back the same thing that you created, including an ID identifier property. So you're gonna get the created post here that I can call it whatever, by the way, this variable names. And then I'm gonna finally set messages with that created new post instead of this new message, because new message doesn't have the ID. Created post is the one that has. And that's pretty much how you do submission to the server. Let's test it out. I don't even know if that server accepts that format. We can test in the dev tools. By the way, this warning here happens when you do mapping, you gotta add a key. Let me backtrack. When you do .map in JSX, it always wants you to add a key here. So you add a key with something unique, maybe message.id is something unique. Anyway, going back, refresh, should get rid of that. Okay, we got a breakpoint here. I don't want it. Oh, here, there you go. I don't want that one. Refresh. I want a breakpoint in, let me remove them. In the fetch here to add message, I want to show you that it creates the post. ABC. Let's see what we got. Oh, it did create it. You can see network tab. Let's go fetch XHR. This is the method post. Headers, you see this one? This is the request we did. If you click network, go to the filter XHR posts. You see we did a post request to that. And here are our headers. Remember we did content type, it's here. And we had the body, which is the payload. This is the JSON string 5 version. Comment ABC and the response. They actually created it with the ID. You see the ID there? So it's a fake backend. Obviously, it's not a real thing, but at least it recognizes that. And then finally, go on and it adds here. Assuming it's a fake backend, it's real, and it accepted our comment, and add here. I tried another one, same thing, okay? Call the server, hey, I want to add a new comment. They would do all the checks, right? You would have to be logged in. Are you authorized to create a comment? Obviously, we don't have those things, but that's what would typically do. They would validate your comment first. Hey, is this a valid comment? And store in the database eventually. Obviously, they would remove anybody trying to inject scripts. We're using HTML tag script for access. It's called XSS uh, for security problem. And then, yeah, they'll give a response. If they would error out, if they give an error, here you have to say an error message. Basically, you use state and put a string in the state that's initially null or empty. And if you have a problem, set that to something, and then put in your JSX. If that is defined, show a div with that error message. And if not, it just gives you back the comment in the response body with the ID, and you can use the ID as the unique identifier to understand, hey, it was stored in the database. So when I refresh, I would see it again. Obviously, I don't think these two will be there because it's a fake backend. So we only see the persisted default ones. When we do have our own backend that persists the actual data, we will see them not go away when we refresh. Okay. But anyway, I think that's the end of this lecture. Thank you for being here up till now.